So I am the CEO of Grosso University. At Grosso University, we have one word that we really love, and that's the word fantastic. Fantastic. So here's what I want to do. I want to get the energy up just a little bit to kickstart this presentation. I'm going to ask everybody in this room, how are you feeling? Oh, good start. I didn't even have to do much training on this one. So again, as loud as you can, I want you to scream, fantastic. Okay, are we ready? FCI, how are we feeling? How are we feeling? How's the economy? How's inflation? How's Grosso University? Oh, thank you so much. All right, let's give yourselves a hand. All right, quick show of hands. How many of you have heard of Dominic Caminata before? How many of you have seen Dominic Caminata before? Raise your hand if you don't give a damn one way or the other. All right. So I first entered this business in 2010, and I started this business as an outside salesperson for a company some of you may have heard of called Mad City Roofing, Siding, and Windows. If you haven't heard of the company, that's completely fine. It was a small home improvement company based in Madison, Wisconsin. And when I first got there, Mad City was a storm restoration company that was $800,000 in debt on the verge of going bankrupt. So in 2010, they made a profound shift going from a storm restoration company to a retail sales organization focusing on profitability. How many have heard the phrase, volume's for vanity and profit is for sanity? Is profitability important in business? Who wants to make more money in 2025? Okay, I want everyone to give themselves a pay raise this year. You deserve it, all right? So I first got into this business and I was really blessed to be exposed to the Grosso 10-step sales process that was written by my mentor, Rick Grosso. Has anyone heard of Rick Grosso before? So has anyone heard of Dave Yoho? Anyone heard of Zig Ziglar? Okay, so Rick Grosso is what I define as the Zig Ziglar of the home improvement industry. He truly was an industry legend. He was a well-known trainer and consultant for 4 decades. And I had the honor in 2019 of taking over his legacy. But Rick defined the right sales methodology as a paint-by-numbers system. Has anyone ever done a paint-by-numbers before? Now, if you've ever done a paint-by-numbers, you have a canvas that has all these different sections with numbers, and you have your 18, 20, 30 different colors with the corresponding number. As long as you can follow basic instructions, you can create masterpieces, even if you're not a natural-born artist. Sales is the exact same way. This game of sales is learnable, it's trainable, it's duplicatable. The best salespeople in the world are not born that way, they are made to be the best. And there's a difference between shooting stars and what I define as shining stars. What's the difference between a shooting star and sales? Do we see a lot of those? What happens to a shooting star? Shines bright for a little bit at the time, does some impressive stuff, but then it fizzles away.
Hold on, closers. Are you ready to stop losing deals to the same tired old objections? At Grosso University, we've created this free closers guide just for you, which is a proven step-by-step framework to overcome any objection in the home improvement industry. This is the exact system used by top producers in the game, closing at over 70% plus, including record-breaking selling streaks such as 40 sales in a row. Inside, you'll learn how to get to the true emotional root origin of every objection, crush resistance with confidence, and close like an absolute professional. The best part is, this framework will teach you how to become a tenacious one-call closer without building any pressure whatsoever. Don't leave money on the table. Download your free closer's guide now and start turning objections into opportunities. As always at Grosso University, yes, you are a closer, and back to the video.
We want you to become shining stars, and this is where the system truly reigns supreme. So with the right sales process, just like paint by numbers, success in sales becomes predictable, duplicatable, replicatable, and trainable. And this is what we've done tremendously at Grosso University. Now, coming in this industry with no sales experience, I closed my first 7 sales in a row, not having a clue what I was doing. I was so robotic you would have all laughed. I was like, John and Mary, that was step 1, the introduction. Let me move on to step 2 now, the needs assessment and/or survey. And it was working. It was still working. So now my first 6 months, I wrote up over $1 million in business. At Mad City, became the salesman of the year my first 3 years. Then I got promoted to a sales trainer. And that's where things for me in my life took off like a rocket ship. I made a decision in my life early in my career. I didn't just want to master this game of sales. I wanted to be Rick Grosso. I wanted to take over his legacy. And I knew in order to do that, for people to take me seriously, I needed to build one of the highest performing sales teams in the country, to prove to myself and to the world that I can take this Grosso system and train it to build a sales powerhouse. So I was happy to do that. We took that sales team from $4.8 million, $800,000 in debt to doing over $100 million at about a 20% net profit. Okay, let's hear it. And the foundation of all that is the sales system. And this is what I'm going to talk about. Now, with every system, there's nuances to sales, what top sales performers do that average salespeople do not do. This is why I'm really excited about this presentation. Now, if you had the keys to the kingdom that showed you exactly what the top 1% of closers are doing consistently that average salespeople are not doing, who would love to know that information? What if you truly had visibility as to every top performer in the industry and you could replicate the sales strategies that they're doing to have consistent and predictable results? So that's what we're going to talk about on today's session. Now, I want to talk about some of the things that were mentioned in the previous presentations, right? This is something that was taught to me by my mentor, Rick. I'm going to share with all of you. I want to be clear that you are all twice as good as you think you are, and that's only half the truth, and that's an understatement. You are twice as good as you think you are, and that's only half the truth, and that's an understatement. How much money can you make in this profession of outside sales? How much money can you make? There are salespeople making $1 million a year selling the same products you're selling right now. $1 million a year. What is $1 million a year? It's $2,700 a day. Is that possible to make $2,700 a day doing what you're doing? So we talk about 10Xing. You have big, hairy, audacious goals, right? You should set goals that would terrify the average person. But we get conditioned in life to sell ourselves short. We have self-limiting beliefs. We go through the K through 12 indoctrination program and we come out of school with very little ambition, very little goals, right? So we want to make sure that you raise the bar on what you think is possible, relentlessly pursue your dreams, and most importantly, never give up. What's the formula for success? I think it's 1% talent, 1% luck, 98% never give up. Okay? But in order to be successful in sales, we need to throw out all the excuses. Excuses are like what? And we need to ignore the naysayers and understand that our success in this business is only going to be held back by the limits we put on our imagination. So to summarize, the first most important sale we have to make is selling ourselves to ourselves, period. If you go into every house with self-limiting beliefs, you don't believe in yourself, you don't believe in the products you sell, you don't believe in the company you represent, you don't believe in your price, what type of success are you going to have? So you need to be radiating that confidence. Sales is a transference of what? Transference of feeling and emotion. So when you go into a house, you should be so confident. They say who you are speaks so loudly I can't hear a word you're saying. Has anyone ever gone on a hot streak before in sales where you sell 5, 6, 7, 10 deals in a row? Anyone have, Matt? What's the biggest stretch in sales that you've had? 8 in a day. All right, let's give them a hand on that. 8 in one day. Now, after you just got done closing your 4th sale in a row, what's your level of confidence? So when you go into the next house, what's the probability that they're going to buy? It's undeniable. I dare you to say no to me. Go ahead, give it a shot, right? But you need to walk into every house with that level of confidence, right? Now, there's one last thing I want to share before I dive into the data here. I got some exciting stuff I'm going to share. What's the secret to happiness? What's the secret to happiness? Does anyone know? Success? They say actually happiness is the secret to success. It's the other way around, right? But what's the secret to happiness? Some people would argue freedom is important to be happy, right? Who believes that freedom is a foundational element of being happy in the world? Having freedom to do what you want, when you want, how you want, make your own decisions in life, okay? So what's the secret to freedom though? Courage. You gotta have courage to be free. There was a point in time in our country's history where courage was required in order to have any sense of freedom or liberty, right? But what's the secret to courage? Knowledge. Knowledge is truly power. And I'm living proof with the right knowledge, it gives you the courage and confidence to pursue a life of freedom, abundance, prosperity, fun, and love, okay? That all sounds really great, doesn't it? So the secret to happiness is knowledge. The secret to knowledge is Grosso University. So we prescribe happiness. Come see me after the presentation. We'll show you how to do it, okay? So I have at my disposal over 100 years worth of data, millions of hours of documented sales encounters from the top performers, and we have funneled this data down to precisely what the top 1% of closers are doing consistently to be top performers. Now I'm comparing a top performer to an average salesperson. Now I want to be clear that when I say average, I don't mean bad. Average is still pretty good. Average is maybe your 20 to 30% closer, maybe even 40%, doing okay, makes a decent living, but they're not in the top 1%. Who would love to be in the top 1% of sales professionals in the world, in the country, okay? So this is why this is important, because just like paint by numbers, if you learn these simple strategies and you work on mastering these things, you can in fact be in the top 1%. Now I often talk to sales organizations, I'll talk to hundreds of salespeople, and I'll ask them, what is the definition of a salesperson? And I'm talking to, how many salespeople are in this room? What's the definition of a salesperson? I'll get 100 different answers. And not that any of them are wrong. There isn't one definition of a salesperson. But I just want to leave you with the Grosso University definition of a salesperson here before we dive into this stuff. We define a salesperson as an agent of influence who can influence other people in the direction in which they want them to go. So when you walk into a house, you are an agent of influence, and you have more power to influence much more than you can possibly imagine. So we define a salesperson a lot of times as a thermostat, not a thermometer. When you walk into a house, you're a thermostat, not a thermometer. Now, what's the difference between a thermostat and a thermometer? Which one's setting the temperature, setting the tone, controlling or regulating the environment? So when you enter that house, obviously your goal is to deliver an absolute masterful presentation, make that close a natural conclusion. What's the best close in the world, sales pros? A masterful presentation. If you don't know that, please write that down. The best close in the world is a masterful presentation. When you deliver a masterful presentation, the close is the natural conclusion. Now, what is a masterful presentation? Everything you say and do when you walk up to that house is part of the masterful presentation. How are you presenting yourself? How are you conducting yourself? How are you maintaining eye contact, asking questions, building trust, truly listening? We're going to talk about some of these strategies here in this session, but you are an agent of influence. Now, this is a really great skill set to have in life as well, being an agent of influence. Can you influence your children in the direction in which you want them to go as their leader? Can you influence your spouse? By the way, my wife's sitting right over here, so I got to be careful what I'm saying. By the way, I just want to share publicly, the other day we got in an argument, and I won. I know. I shouldn't be saying this with her here. As a matter of fact, by the end of the argument, I had her on her hands and knees begging me. It sounded like this. She's like, "Get out from under the bed, you coward." Just kidding. Nobody wins an argument, okay? Especially not in a relationship, not in sales. All right. So what is it, in fact, that the top 1% of sales professionals are doing? Now, I want to explain, how do we get this data? Has anyone ever heard of RealAvoice or Zero, some of these AI coaching apps that are in the industry today? So we have unique partnerships at Grosso University where we have access to data. It's actually real recordings of real sales encounters that have been scored, transcribed, graded, and analyzed by AI. And basically what it does is it automatically records and documents precisely how the top sales performers in the country, in the world, are navigating a sales encounter. So literally stuff that we wish we had visibility on decades ago, we now have at our fingertips. So when I talk about these things, I want to be crystal clear. This is not based in theory. I'm not saying that this could work for you, guys. This will work for you if you get more proficient at these simple areas of selling. Okay. Now, who's ever heard the line, there's a reason why the Lord gave us one mouth and two ears? Who's ever heard that before? What does that mean? What do most salespeople suck at, to be honest? Listening. What do most husbands suck at? Okay. Most salespeople love to hear what? The sound of their own voice. Now, I want to be clear that there is a vast difference between actually listening to somebody and waiting for your turn to talk. What does it mean to wait for your turn to talk? When the prospect is speaking, are you truly listening to the words coming out of their mouth? Or do you have this inner monologue flapping its jaw, trying to focus on what you're going to say next? So now, listening. Top sales professionals listen a lot more and they keep a more balanced talk ratio in the house. Does anyone know what the average is in the industry? I have it up there. On average, salespeople dominate the conversation 80% of the time. 80% of the time, the salesperson's talking in the house. Now, how special does the prospect feel when you're talking 80% of the time? Who's this really about? Is it about them or about you? Well, they think it's about you because you're just talking about how great you are and all the amazing things. We have recordings from salespeople in the house where they have a 20 to 30-minute monologue. So I love doing these presentations because I get to talk and you have to sit there and listen. I'm actually paid to do monologues. This is great. But they're not truly listening. They're not getting the homeowner talking. Now here's the visual I want everyone to have from now on when you go into every single home. I want you to picture that there's a voice-activated spotlight above the kitchen table. And this voice-activated spotlight only shines on the person who is talking. So every time you're flapping your jaw and saying how great you are and selling them, the spotlight is shining on you. When the spotlight is shining on you, where's the prospect left? In the dark. You leave them in the dark too long, what's going to happen? You're going to lose them. Do people have shorter attention spans nowadays than ever before? Is it harder to hold a listener's attention than ever before? So if I'm talking at them for 30, 40, 50 minutes, an hour, 2 hours straight, again, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, right? Seek first to understand, then to be understood. So people want to be understood. They want to feel that you genuinely care, and they're never going to feel that if all you're doing is talking at them. So we need to have a balanced talk ratio. So truth be told, if you could maintain a 50-50 talk ratio, or even better, as we were talking about last night, have the prospect talking more than you, because who's this really about? It's about them, not about you. That is a formula for success. But here's what's interesting. The top 1% of sales performers are simply 16% better at having a balanced talk ratio in the house. 16% better. I preach this often when I'm doing sales trainings. Making twice as much money in sales, having twice as much sales revenue has nothing to do with even working twice as hard or driving twice as many miles or running twice as many leads. A lot of times all it takes is being a little bit better at the critical areas of selling. And that's what we need to do. School is never out for the closer. You need to constantly be fine-tuning your skills, right? Now, there's a difference between listening and what I define as deep listening. Has anyone ever heard that term deep listening before? So deep listening is more than just what you hear. It's also what you see and feel. So you're listening with your ears, eyes, and your intuition. So when someone's talking, you want to shut off that monologue in your mind as best you can. Now this takes practice. If you haven't practiced it with your spouse, I definitely recommend you start doing that. Like my wife, she'll literally be telling me something highly important. I'm looking right at her, she's looking right at me. I got good eye contact, but I got this monkey in my head going like this. And she can tell that monkey's up there. She's like, did you just hear what I said? I'm like, of course, honey. She's like, okay, tell me what I just said. I'm like, oh, darn it. I truly wasn't listening. I was waiting for my turn to talk or thinking about some other random stuff, right? So you gotta shut off that voice, that little monkey in your head, that talking robot, and you gotta truly focus on the words they're saying. And even deeper than that, look at their body language and their facial expressions. What is the majority of communication? Is it the words they're saying or how they're saying them? Most of communication is body language, voice inflection, facial expressions, their tone, their pitch, their rate, the emotion behind what they're saying. I need a key to those things. Now, who believes that learning a script is important in sales? Learning scripting or knowing what to say before you go into a house? Okay, if you don't feel that's important, that's something I would definitely recommend. We have a mindset shift. Scripting is mandatory in sales. It is absolutely vital. Classic example, how many movies are scripted? Only all of them. As a matter of fact, if they weren't scripted, they'd be boring, they would suck. Now, how intelligent does a politician sound off script? Catch a politician off script, ask them a question, tell me how intelligent they sound off script. Now you can take that same politician, give them a well-written speech, written by somebody else probably, and they can give a really compelling State of the Union address, right? But this is very important that you are scripted, and here's why psychologically. It's impossible to think about what you're supposed to say and when you're supposed to say it, and also simultaneously control your disruptive emotions and key to the customer's nonverbal communication. Mentally, you can't do all of those things at once. So the only way to truly master this, where you're truly listening to them, not waiting for your turn to talk, is knowing what you're going to say before you say it. Actually having this system down forwards and backwards. So now train my salespeople is mandatory that they learn the foundational scripts of our system before they're ever issued a lead independently. Scripting is absolutely essential. Now, when you first learn a script, how do you sound? A little robotic, right? Now, when you watch a movie, do they sound scripted? They simply have learned the script enough where it becomes their voice, and they focus on the other 93% of communication, which is not the words on the paper, it's how they're delivering that message. So here's one line I want to share with you all. It's not what you say that matters, it's how the prospects perceive what you're saying that matters, okay? But listening, ears, eyes, and intuition, maintain a balanced talk ratio. Now, some people say, well, how can I maintain a balanced talk ratio? How can I be more effective at this? Well, one simple strategy that there is asking questions. Are questions important in sales? How important are questions in sales? It's one of the most important weapons of influence that you have, is the ability to ask questions. Now, here's what was trained to me. Selling is not telling. Telling is not selling. Anything you say in the house is an opinion. Anything you say in the house, anything you tell them, they tend to resist. Now, if I'm going to be an effective agent of influence, I need to be able to reprogram a prospect's belief system more often than not. How often when you enter the house is the prospect's current belief system in perfect alignment with what you need to close them? Almost never, right? It'd be kind of scary if it was. So we need to program their belief system. In order to do that, I need to get them saying it. When they say it, they own it. Instead of me telling them, I need to be strategic in how I'm asking questions to get them telling me. Questions are the answers in sales. Any question you ask is infinitely more powerful than anything you say in the house. Let me repeat that one more time. A question that you ask them is infinitely more powerful than anything you say, anything you tell them. Now, we're big fans of open-ended questions, especially throughout the discovery. Now, what's the difference between average salespeople and top performers? Average salespeople do an okay job of asking questions at the beginning of the sales encounter, when they're first getting to know the prospect, maybe doing a warm-up, maybe going over some sort of survey or needs assessment. But then as soon as they put their sales hat on and start selling the homeowner, what happens to the questions? Drops off a cliff. It prorates, just like a lot of your competitors' warranties, right? It prorates. Top performers ask questions in a linear fashion throughout the entire sales encounter. Now that takes preparation. They ask on average 5 times more questions than average salespeople do. Now, why are questions so important? When you go into a house, your prospects are just like icebergs. 80% of what I need to effectively influence them is beneath the surface, and the only way I can get at that information, they're not going to just hand it over, is through being very strategic on how I'm asking questions. Now, can you ask the same questions in every house? Can you ask the same questions in every house? I want to use an example here. Has anyone ever done stand-up comedy before? Any stand-up comedians in the room? Okay, have you seen stand-up comedy? Have you heard of the profession of stand-up comedy? Okay, so stand-up comedians, how much do they prepare for a 1-hour performance? How much preparation goes into a 1-hour performance for stand-up comedy? It takes about a year to put together a 60-minute performance. 1 year of preparation. Now, they can even have the jokes written at the beginning of that year, and it takes a full year of practicing, rehearsing, drilling. They practice on live audiences, making sure that the way they deliver these jokes is landing perfectly. But what stand-up comedians do, what I define as next level preparation, is they, of course, focus on the joke, how they deliver the joke. They focus on the questions they're going to ask the audience, the most probable answers and responses and reactions they're going to get. They even write laughter into their performance, when the audience is going to laugh, most likely. And then based on the reactions and the answers they're getting from the audience, they have a couple different directions they can go, different jokes they can deliver to piggyback, so it looks like they're improvising off the audience. I'm here to tell you it's not improv, it's planned improv. Now, how is this relevant to sales? Can you plan in advance what questions you're going to ask and when? Can you plan and role play with your peers the most probable responses and reactions I'm going to get to those questions? And after I get that reaction, I'm going to layer that with more open-ended questions to keep the homeowner talking. The answer is yes, you can. One of my favorite exercises I love doing with my sales team is we go through every slide of our company's story, our product presentation as a mastermind group. And by the way, look at the mastermind group we have in this room. How much brain power is in this room alone? You get together with your peers as a mastermind group, you go through each slide and you simply ask, what questions can we ask the homeowner on this slide to get them talking? What questions can I ask them to get them to open up, to get them to tell me instead of me telling them? And that also goes in line with storytelling. Is storytelling an important sales strategy? Who's a good storyteller? So we were talking about TED Talks earlier. You know that the average TED Talk is 60% storytelling? Why is that important? It's one of the optimal ways to hold a listener's attention. And storytelling is unique because it's a way you can tell somebody something without actually telling them. So the message is embedded in the moral of the story. So you need to prepare in advance, right? If you failed to prepare, you're preparing to fail. What questions you're gonna ask when, and actually get even deeper. What's the most probable reactions I'm gonna get? Because I wanna layer those questions with more questions to keep them talking. When you get really good at listening and asking open-ended questions, you can actually activate what's called the self-disclosure loop. Has anyone ever heard this term, self-disclosure? So this is actually important for all salespeople to know that human beings actually get pleasure from revealing personal information. So they've done a lot of studies on this, especially in the last 10 years. They have people hooked up to high-powered MRI machines, and they find that when people reveal personal information, it actually releases dopamine and serotonin and the feel-good pleasure drugs into their brain. It makes them feel good. Have you ever had that in a conversation where you're talking to a stranger? Maybe it happened at this conference. And you're doing a good job maintaining eye contact, you're listening, you're asking questions, and all of a sudden they get really personal really quick. They start telling you personal information, like almost to the point of too much information. You're like, what in the hell just happened? Well, you activated their self-disclosure loop. Because for the first time in a while, maybe they feel heard and understood. They feel like you genuinely care. And now they're revealing personal information. They're getting rewarded with every personal revelation. Now, how can that benefit you in sales? Have you ever had a prospect that simply just opened up to you and basically help you pave out the roadmap to the sale? We talk about how do you uncover the prospect's hot buttons? How do you get to the root of the fears they may have or hidden objections we may have to overcome? What's truly important and meaningful for them, because more than ever, people desire personalized experience. And part of being successful in sales is also being a chameleon in the house, right? That's gonna happen when you ask the right questions and truly listen. Now, this takes practice, and as a matter of fact, listening is one of the hardest things for salespeople to do. It's not a passive strategy. It's a very active strategy, and it takes hard work, discipline, and it takes practice. So questions are the answers. Keep the spotlight on the prospects. And that's just fun. You think about that voice-activated spotlight. Every time you ask that question, you see the spotlight turn around and shining on them. So that's a little game you're trying to play in the house. How long can I keep the spotlight on the homeowners, make them feel special? I like sharing this with sales teams, especially when I'm getting in front of them for the first time. There's two promises I made to myself before I went into every house. One, I'm gonna give these homeowners the best presentation they've ever seen in their life. And two, I'm gonna make them feel like the most important people in the world. I'm gonna make them feel special for the next hour, 2 hours, whatever the sales encounter is. I promise you, if you can accomplish those things, deliver a masterful presentation and make them feel special, make them feel understood, like you genuinely care, you're gonna come out with the outcome you desire more often than not. On a scale of 1 to 10, how good is the competition? How good is your competition on a scale of 1 to 10? I can tell you, they suck. No offense. That's just across the board in sales. Most salespeople suck. For one, they don't have the work ethic. They don't have the drive, the determination. They don't have the training, the process. What is the work ethic like of the average person nowadays? I promise you, most of your competition is how quickly can I get in and out of this house and take somebody's order. It's order taking, it's not sales. So to me, that means that the opportunity for a properly trained and disciplined sales professional is better than ever before in history. Because your competition is getting weaker. You need to do the opposite. You need to get to expert level. Think of this as a true profession. So at Grosso University, you see that our logo is a Spartan warrior helmet, okay? So Spartans are known as one of the most skilled fighters in the history of humanity, right? Skilled. They're the best at what it is that they do. They thought combat, war, that was their profession. Do you think of sales as an actual profession? Most people would say yes, but do people treat it that way? Do you need a license to go sell? Do you need any sort of certification or even formal training? What do most salespeople get for training? Here's your soft pack, here's your contract, good luck, go get them. But you can make doctor level income your first year in sales, but people don't treat it as a true profession. How long do you have to go to school to be a doctor? Forever, right? Rack up hundreds of thousands of dollars in student debt. So how long do you have to go to school to be a sales professional? Dropped out of high school, right? Hey, I was in the 50% of my class to be the top 50% possible, I get it. But the whole point is, I want you to really start thinking of sales as a profession. And the cool thing is, as I mentioned earlier, you don't have to be a natural born salesperson to thrive here. And as I'll talk about in my sales leadership, if you want to have success finding top quality talent, make sure you have the training tools and resources to create top quality talent, to build these top performers within your organization. You should never be beholden to what's existing in the current marketplace, whether it be through labor acquisition, whether it be through marketers, brand ambassadors, promoters, or sales professionals. You need to have the tools and resources to build top performers, and that's how you're really going to 10x your business long term. So top 1% of closers, slow things down. Slow down. When you get to that kitchen table, fasten your seatbelt, buckle down, and hang out as long as it takes. Love the one you're with. What is that song, Love the One You're With? I want you to think of that song when you're in the house, okay? And Rick Grosso always shared the story about, so Rick Grosso owned a company called RJW Enterprises, the second largest replacement window company in North America, and this is in the 80s, going back quite a few years. And they did an annual vacation for all their top salespeople. And this particular year, in the 1980s, they took their whole sales team to the Bahamas to recognize them for outstanding performance. And their number one salesperson, so that'd be like Kyle and Matt over here, their number one salesperson, because of personal reasons, had to stay home. He couldn't go on the company trip, and he was devastated. And what do you think all the other salespeople did to that top performer? Rubbing it in, twisting in that dagger, giving them shit. They're like, we're gonna be in the Bahamas, drinking Bahama Mamas, having Mai Tai, soaking up the sun. You're gonna be back here freezing your butt off. And this top performer, so imagine talking to Kyle and Matt about that. He's like, I tell you what, guys, when you're gone to the Bahamas, I'm gonna have so many leads and make so much money, I'm gonna buy the Bahamas when you get back. And truthfully, he was running 10 leads a day. Had so many leads, right? What do you think happened to this top performer's sales performance during that week when he had all these leads? It tanked. Why do you think the sales performance suffered? Because it was always going on to the next one, the next one, the next one, the next one. I have so many leads. It's all about a numbers game, right? How many leads can I run? That's what's going to translate into success. I'm here to tell you it's the opposite. You need to slow down. It's not a race. You need to be patient. Does it take time to build trust? Does it take time to build a relationship with another human being? Does it take time to build value in your company, your product, your service, and yourself? It takes time to effectively price condition in the home, doesn't it? Wouldn't it be nice if every prospect knew exactly how much your product costs before you got there and they were 100% cool with it? That's not the case, right? So we need to slow down, and here's what I love about top performers. When they get to the negotiating table and they're talking price and terms and going over financing, they get more patient. They slow down even more. Sales is a transference of feeling. They've actually done research that the prospect's heart rate will mimic the salesperson's heart rate. Now, what does an amateur salesperson do when price is on the table? They talk faster. They get anxious. They get less patient. They turn into machine gun closers. I always think of Rambo. Close after close after close. As soon as the prospect objects, they jump down their throat. And then they wonder why they're kicking people into fight or flight and becoming a high-pressure salesperson. Now, is high-pressure sales, does that ever have anything to do with following a 1-call or a 2-call or a 3-call close? Or is high-pressure sales lack of technique? So high-pressure sales is lack of technique. And so top performers, they have a really phenomenal job of controlling their disruptive emotions, getting more patient when price is on the table, because they understand that the most important thing I need to be able to do is keep that prospect comfortable and keep them relaxed. You cannot close somebody unless they are comfortable and relaxed. And what's interesting about sales, and I'm going to talk more about this in a breakout session on closing and objection handling, is both you and your prospects are really tiptoeing on the edge of fight or flight. It's easy for a salesperson's fight or flight response to get activated when they get hit with a hard objection or hard rejection. They feel threatened, their fight or flight response gets activated. But also, if you come out too aggressive in how you're overcoming objections, you can activate their fight or flight response. What's your probability of selling the job if the customer's fight or flight response is activated? 0, okay? Pack it up and leave. Now, I just want to share one last story on this. So I had a salesperson that was a $3 million producer, super great attitude, always consistent, but for one reason or the other, went into a slump, had a bad week. Does that happen to all of us? It happens, right? But this salesperson was ultra competitive, he played to win, and he was pissed. He actually called me screaming, and he wasn't screaming at me, he was just screaming about the circumstances. I don't know what the hell's going on, Dominic, I'm doing everything, I just can't seem to close the door with the wind behind me this week. And I said, well, let me ask you a question. You seem to be pretty upset right now. Are you mad? Are you angry? So when the customer objects to you in the house, what are you feeling? I don't care what you're saying, what are you feeling? Are you pissed? He's like, yeah. I'm like, well, that's your problem. I said, I don't care what you're saying or how you think you're coming across to that homeowner. If you're angry deep down, what are they feeling? They're feeling that tension, they're feeling that discomfort, they're feeling your anger, and you're kicking them into fight or flight, and you're shutting down the appointment. You're selling yourself out of the house because you're not controlling your disruptive emotions. Here's a very important quote I want to share. He or she who is in more control of their disruptive emotions will have the highest probability of getting the outcome they desire. You need to slow down. Now, thankfully, this salesperson was a good chess player, and a good chess player is always 4, 5, 6 moves ahead. I can barely focus on the move I'm on, but they're like 5, 6 moves ahead, right? So when you play chess and you're 5 moves ahead, you move your piece, your opponent moves their piece, do you get upset? No, because guess what? I already know where I'm going before that even happened. Then they make another move. What happens? You make your move. And when you get really good at this game of selling, which it is, it's a data-driven sport now, that's the exact same confidence you should have at the negotiating table. You know the roadmap to the sale, forwards and backwards. So when you deliver step 1 of your closing sequence, guess what? The homeowner objects. Do you get upset about them objecting, or do you smile? Because you just got a no out of the way. You know you're that much closer to getting a yes. By the way, incidentally, how many no's on average does a person have to give you before they give you a yes? So 82% of consumers buy after 4 no's. So you can write that down. 82% of consumers buy after 4 no's. And that's across all of sales. Now, when does the average salesperson throw in the towel and leave? After one objection. And they wonder why there's a vast ocean between the amateurs, the average, and the top performers, right? But you gotta be patient, slow down. And again, your whole goal is to control your disruptive emotions so you can set the tone in that house, keep them comfortable and relaxed. You have to invest the time. Now, this kind of pairs with what we were talking about earlier. And of course, every product or service is different. You sell what I would call a smaller ticket item. You're not selling a 6-figure design build basement on average, right? So what's the average sale in the company? Let's just say $4,000, right? Let's raise $4,000. So some people have a $10,000 average sale because they get all the good leads, right, Matt? $15,000 average sale. Now, I promise you, if you look across the board, the salespeople that have the highest average sale and the highest conversion on leads invest more time on average per lead. They invest the time. You have to slow down and invest the time. Now, across all of home improvements, they say something magical happens after 2.5 hours. Now, obviously, that doesn't make sense for every product or service because you sell a smaller ticket item, but you still want to make sure it's not how quickly can I get in and out of the house. Again, this is a big investment they're making, and it takes a lot of trust, it takes a lot of value, a lot of rapport, and again, something magical happens when you invest the time. So slow down, invest the time, don't quit early. But basically what this chart is showing you here, what you can see, is after that 2-hour mark, especially getting into longer, that's when conversion significantly increases. Has anyone ever had a sales encounter that lasted more than 2 hours? How about 4 hours? 5 hours? Did you sell it? I hope so. Otherwise, obviously, that wouldn't be a good return on your time investment. But the whole point is you got to slow down and invest the time. This is what top performers are phenomenal at. Now, this is going to transition into some of the breakouts I'm doing. I'm doing a breakout just on how to sell financing in the home. Is financing an important weapon that we have in the sales encounter to earn someone's business? Why is financing so darn important? Yep, when you are going into every house armed with the power of financing, price is now completely and utterly irrelevant. You don't have to sell on price anymore. All you have to sell on is affordability. And this is what top performers know all too well. What we see is, on average, the top 1% of sales professionals talk and discuss financial terms 8 times more on average than average salespeople do. They literally sprinkle it in throughout their entire sales encounter from beginning to end as a trail of breadcrumbs. So by the time they get to the close, the homeowner's already conditioned that this is how everybody buys. Anyone familiar with the phenomenon of social proof? Bandwagon theory, people tend to do what other people do. It's actually one of the greatest motivators in all of humanity. So the more I can normalize and condition them that financing is normal, it's the way everybody buys, focus on affordability, not price. As a matter of fact, anytime I get an objection where the homeowner's like, wow, this sounds like it's going to be expensive, I said, we'll put a smile on your face because affordability happens to be our best feature. It's actually the easy part, John and Mary. But I'm glad you see the value and the quality of what I'm presenting for you here today. So use financing as a boomerang to the sale. If you're not expertly trained on how to talk, act, and behave when discussing money and financing, this is a huge element of your sales arsenal. I would definitely recommend you polish up. I was actually just working with a company out of Boston, and they hired this finance manager as a new sales representative. He was a finance manager at a car dealership before being an outside salesperson for their company. In his first 4 months, he sold $4.2 million in home improvements. Guess how much of his business was sold on financing? 95%. He knew how to talk, act, and behave when discussing money, and he knew how to normalize it and condition them that this is the way everybody buys, everyone. 4.2 million in his first 4 months. Never having done in-home sales before in the home improvement industry. Didn't even know how to use the tape measure. It didn't matter because he knew how to talk, act, and behave when discussing money. Now the company's story is trust and faith in your company an important prerequisite to earning someone's business. You need to have trust and they need to have faith that you're going to deliver on your promises. Top sales performers invest the time discussing the terms of the company, how they're going to give them that 5-star white glove experience. They break down step by step what's going to be expected the moment the crews arrive. They walk them through the entire installation process from A to Z. They have videos, they have all kinds of different tools and resources so they can pour jet fuel on the positive movie in the prospect's mind. So one thing I want everyone to understand is every person plays a positive and negative movie in their mind before they buy from you. The positive movie is, what are all the amazing things that can happen if I hire this person and I made the right decision and it turns out to be exactly what they promised. The negative movie is, what are all things that can go wrong if I make the wrong decision, hire this person too quickly, and it backfires, right? They have the fear of loss. So of course, the hope of gain movie is typically not as powerful as the fear of loss movie. So I need to pour jet fuel on that hope of gain, that positive movie. So anytime I can have videos and testimonials and reviews and ideally job site walkthroughs. Are you filming and documenting your installs? If you can have powerful videos in your in-home presentation that have you or someone on your team walking through a successful installation, what they can expect, that's going to be a very powerful tool and resource to lower that fear of loss and boost that hope of gain. But also, what top sales professionals do really well is kind of like the Norman Vincent Peale strategy for giving phenomenal speeches. They tell them what they're going to tell them, then they tell them, and then they tell them what they told them. So they do a good job introducing some of the elements of your company, what sets you apart, what makes you different, what's going to give them a unique experience, how you're going to give them a 5-star white glove, red carpet treatment when the crews arrive. Then they do a good job before they deliver price, rebuilding value in the company again. And then of course, even after the homeowner buys, they button up the sale by rebuilding the value in the company one more time, reinforcing the decision that they made to work with the best flooring company in your respective territory. So there's this thing called the 3 R's in sales. Anyone ever heard of the 3 R's? By the way, what's a pirate's favorite letter? It's the C, yeah. So the 3 R's in sales: reading, writing, arithmetic. No, it's repeat, review, remind. Repeat, review, remind. The average person needs to hear something 6 to 18 times to retain it. Do you want me to repeat that? 6 to 18 times. So if you tell someone something one time, is it going to sink in? Have you ever felt that way, that you're at the negotiating table discussing price, and it seems like most of the things you got done selling them on are in one ear, out the other? If you tell them something one time, it's not going to stick, I promise you. You got to repeat, review, remind over and over. And again, not just you telling, getting them telling you, getting them selling it back to you. That's one of the most powerful things to make it sink in. And of course, pair that with strong visuals. Your prospects will retain about 10% of what they hear coming out of your mouth. They retain 60 to 80% of what they see and experience. So anytime I can reinforce my sales talking points with strong visuals and ideally engage their senses, get them physically and mentally involved in the sales encounter, that's a formula for success. And then of course, qualification. How many times are you shaking their hand in the house? Is the handshake still an important way to close the sale? Who loves the handshake? Why is the handshake important? Are you timid to put your hand out there at the negotiating table to earn their business? If you are timid, that means you feel you haven't earned the right. You don't have the confidence to do it, right? Now, for me, I don't want the handshake to seem really awkward, like this is some foreign body part they've never seen before in their life and I'm dangling out there for the first time when price is on the table. Ideally, at the negotiating table, they should be conditioned to shaking my hand throughout. So when I'm getting committed to doing the work sooner than later, I'm shaking their hand. When I get them committed to doing business with our company at the exclusion of everyone else, I'm getting them to shake my hand. When I'm getting committed to the different features and benefits and things they love so much about our product and service, I'm getting the handshakes throughout. When I'm getting my pre-closes, I'm getting handshakes. That way, when I get to the negotiating table, I'm ready to close that sale. They're already conditioned. When I put my hand out, they're gonna go ahead and shake that. Plus, it's a way of them giving you their physical contract with you. There is such a thing called the handshake agreement. And in a way, I always think every time I'm shaking their hand, I'm taking away a key to the getaway car and putting it in my back pocket. So the more handshakes you can get, the more qualification, the more I can get them committed, the more keys to the getaway car. And ideally, in this game of sales, my goal is to funnel all objections down to one thing, and that's affordability. So I don't want to be dealing with shop around. I don't want to be dealing with price. I don't want to be dealing with procrastination. Ideally, affordability, simply fitting it into their budget on flexible terms, should be more often than not the only objection you're dealing with at the negotiating table. More often than not. Now, you can't do it 100% of the time, but more often than not, that should be it. And that comes from closing these doors and qualifying the homeowner throughout. This is going to shock everybody. Top performers stick to a system and a script. Who's surprised? Now, in every situation, there's always got to be some room for creativity. There's always got to be some room for personalization. There's always got to be some room for being a chameleon in the house and modifying your master presentation to best suit your prospect's needs. True? However, top performers are 70% compliant to a script on average, which means 70% of the time, what they're doing, what they're saying, how they're navigating the process is strategic. It's following a step-selling sales process. And the 30% is that level of creativity, that improvisation, that personalization, that being a chameleon they need to make this homeowner feel like it's truly tailor-made just for them. Average salespeople, 50% or less, are actually sticking to a process, which means about half the time, they're wild, wild west shooting from the hip. Now, you can have reasonable levels of success doing that, but again, to be a top 1% closer, following a system and sticking to it religiously is gonna give you better results. Now, of course, it has to be the right system. Now, one of the last things I want to leave you with here, how often are you listening to yourself in a sales encounter? Who has a recording of themselves? Okay, Matt, why is it important that you have a recording of yourself? Watch the game film. Why do players and coaches spend a ridiculous amount of time watching the game film? When you have that outside perspective, do you learn something new about yourself you didn't know before? I spend an embarrassing amount of time watching myself on video. As a matter of fact, we got thousands of salespeople coast to coast that subscribe to our training. Guess who documented more hours of watching and listening to our content than anyone in the country last year? Actually, about twice as much time. Guess what I do preparing for a presentation like this? I watch myself delivering this presentation for a crazy amount of hours. Because what am I working on? I'm working on my voice inflection, my tone, my pitch, my rate, my body language, my tempo. Am I articulating clearly? Do I have a lot of filler words in my communication? Am I using dirty words of anti-persuasion without knowing about it? I'm going to be talking about that in another breakout session. So you need to record yourself, you need to watch yourself, listen to yourself. So there's a really famous quote by John F. Kennedy. It says, ask not what your company can do for you, but what you can do for your company. So work on fine-tuning your own communication style. Take responsibility for coaching yourself and watching the game film. I promise you, you're going to learn so much about yourself that's going to take your sales skills to the next level. And this is what top performers do. They document more time doing that. So if I were to summarize this, and by the way, our big tagline at Grosso University, our big slogan is, yes, you are a closer. So you see me doing that. So talk less, listen more, ask more questions, be patient, control your disruptive emotions, slow down, invest the time. Leverage financing is a boomerang to the sale. We'll be talking about that in a breakout if you want to join us. Stick to the process, watch the game film, be your own best and worst coach. So that's why I have my wife here. She tells me all the areas in which I suck and need to improve. No, she's absolutely amazing. Can we give my wife a round of applause, by the way? And if you want my personal contact information, you can scan that QR code. By the way, we're going to have a vendor showcase later. We're going to have a booth set up. If you want to learn about how to receive expert sales training, to be master agents of influence and build a sales powerhouse, we're going to have actually a table set up. I'd love to share with you the different programs we have at Grosso University. Thanks for the opportunity. Thank you for your time. And yes, you are a closer. Let's go.